Well, hey everybody, my name is Pastor Darin with Grace Centers of Hope and Grace Gospel Fellowship, and today we have another story of hope and encouragement that I hope will bless you. This is Brent, and he's actually our men's aftercare director at Grace Centers of Hope and involved in our church. And so he's got just an incredible story. I think that it'll bless you and bring you some hope and encouragement. So this is Brent. Hey, Brent.
Hi.
So why don't we just dive right into it? So,
Okay.
Obviously, how long have you been around the ministry here?
I came on May 11th,
Okay.
2021.
Okay, good deal. So you've been here for coming up on 4 years, and
Yes.
certainly a big help to everything that's happening here and blessing a lot of men in our ministries. And so, why don't you tell us about yourself? Where did you grow up?
Yeah.
You know, how'd you end up here and all that?
So I was actually born in Texas. I was down there for the first 2 years of my life. There at the end of that stay, I had a younger biological sister was born. Then my parents split up. Mom moved to Ohio, where her parents lived, and brought myself and my sister with her up here, and we stayed that was in Walbridge, Ohio. We stayed there for a few years, and then somehow, I'm not sure, but my mom ended up taking my sister and myself to Michigan, to Monroe, Michigan, and we actually lived in a garage.
Really?
That was, it was gravel floor. It had split up, like there was a bathroom
like a garage
in there.
to a house?
There was a house, but it wasn't attached to the house, but it was a garage on the back of a house. And that's where my sister Dinah, myself, and my mom stayed for a period of time in this garage. Both biological parents were drug addicts, addicted to drugs. She, of course, had other issues with men and, just living that lifestyle. And at the age of 6, she got in some trouble with the law. And
Your mom did?
Yep, my biological mom did. And my sister and myself got put into foster care.
Okay.
And
why Monroe? I mean, like, why did she move to Michigan?
I still don't know it's kind of late. Both biological parents have passed from drug addiction.
Okay.
So there's some things I just don't know. And but at the age of 6, she got in trouble, was put in jail, and my sister and me went into foster care.
Together?
Okay. Yep. And the family that took us in, my dad was a deacon and then became a pastor, worked at General Motors. My mom taught Sunday school. Okay. So that was a night and day change for us.
Yeah. Do you remember a lot of that?
I do.
Before you were sick? Before you went into foster care?
Yeah. There was things that I do remember. We was always taught that cops were bad. So I remember a lot of hiding floorboards of cars from cops when they'd walk by. I remember there wasn't really much discipline. I know it was kind of like just did whatever I wanted. It was just free reign or whatever. And mom wasn't in the picture.
Is your sister younger than you?
2 years younger than me.
Okay.
Yep. Dinah's 2 years younger. And so before we went into foster care, and then later we both got adopted, she was like my responsibility. Like I felt that I had to take care of my little sister and make sure she ate and was protected. And so that was a lot, as a young child.
Was your mom around a lot, or she was gone?
In and out.
Was your dad ever there?
Nope, Dad never really was in the picture.
Okay. He never came up here to Michigan and all that?
He came to Ohio and was in and out of prison. Okay. Yeah, him and my biological mom never got back together.
Yeah. So how old were you when they passed away and stuff?
Yeah, so I was in my late 20s. Yeah, they died in their early mid 40s from drug. Well, my biological father died from cirrhosis of the liver.
Okay. That young too.
Yeah.
His 40s. Jeez.
Yeah, killed him. And my mom, she had got hit by a vehicle on her bike, and so she had one of her legs were partially amputated, and she was in a wheelchair.
Okay.
And she was living in an apartment that caught on fire, and she burned up in it.
Wow.
And so I remember my mom's mom, my grandmother, calling and letting my sister and me know what had happened to her.
Were you in contact with either of them? As you got older?
Yeah. My parents that took us into foster care, and then later adopted us, was very always open with letting us still stay in contact with our biological family and parents. They had no problem with that. My younger sister, she was really receptive to that. She wanted to call them. She wanted to see them. She loved going and, hearing from them on her birthday, Christmas. Me, on the other hand, I had no part of it. I felt that they were reaching out and trying to build a relationship that I never had with them. And I was in a good home now.
Yeah.
And so I had no desire. And I think another part of all that was I remember things that happened, and my little sister may not remember as much as I did. So there was, there was that separation that I had towards them. And I even my parents that adopted us, wonderful people, and my mom would take us to counseling, and she didn't understand why I was that way, and the doctor said he can heal how he has to, however he wants to heal. Don't make him.
Yeah.
If this is what's working for him, that's okay for him to feel that way.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if did you think that there was any possibility if you developed too much of a relationship with them, then you might have to leave and go be with them?
No, there was never that. I just really felt like I had never established any type of, not even a friendship with them. I didn't know them.
Probably angry.
Yeah, resentment, angry, scared.
Yeah.
All those feelings.
Did your mom or dad ever address it with you, what happened, or anything like that? You said you still don't know to this day.
I think maybe if they had lived longer, and I may have been interested in finding out some things and getting some answers.
Some things are better left unknown. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So your foster parents. I mean, how long were you with them before they actually officially adopt you? Now?
Yeah. So my sister and I was very blessed. We went into foster care. I was 6, Dinah was 4. For 2 years, back and forth. Biological mom, foster care, back and forth. But we always went to the same family. We didn't hop around. So we was very blessed.
Were those because of failed attempts? Like your mom messed
from,
up again or something?
Rehab, jail, just CPS. Always being involved.
So it wasn't until you were 8
that I was adopted.
That you were now I'm actually official. There's no more bouncing around. I'm in this family.
Yes. Yeah. And even the parents that adopted us, I still remember my mom. She loved us so dearly. And she would, when we'd go back, her and she had a good friend that she went to church with, would go and sit outside that garage and make sure we were okay. Wow. That there's no men coming in there hurting us.
Praise God.
And always was there.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, it had to be so, for you to know that too, so foundationally.
Yeah.
Just to know that there is somebody who's, even in the midst of this insanity you're living in and insecurity as a kid, that there's somebody that is looking after you.
Yes. Yeah. And so we was adopted, and I remember something I'll never forget. After Diane and I were adopted, that burden, that weight that I'd carried of having to take care of my sister was relieved, because we were in a secure, safe place now. Yeah. And I didn't have to be an adult as a child
Yeah.
and
Wow.
do these things.
Yeah, you probably have no idea really how that impacts a person moving forward.
Yeah.
So at least at that point, yeah, because so then at that point you're raised in a pretty healthy Christian home,
Yes.
whatnot. So what happens from
Yes.
there?
And shortly after, don't know the exact date, but I was also saved at the age of 8.
Okay.
So shortly after being adopted,
Wow.
I was saved.
So what did that look like? I mean, so they were at first, right? Your dad is a deacon, and then ultimately becomes a pastor.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so you guys were probably in church a lot.
Yeah, and that's Southern Baptist.
Okay.
So we was there Wednesdays, Sunday morning, Sunday night. We had prayer meetings at our house on Fridays. You know, we was in the house of the Lord a lot.
Yeah. Did you like it?
At first, before we was adopted, so from 6 to 8, it was foreign. You know, but something that I will never forget my mom telling me was, it's because of the Lord that we're here and love you and Dinah, Brent.
Yeah.
Because God has allowed us and all the good He's done for us. And that's why you have such a good life, is because of God.
Yeah. What a great foundational message for you to hear.
Yeah, as a young child, you know, I always, that resonated in me. As the life we have now isn't nothing because of what my parents done, but it's because of the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got you into that home, and so then you're going to church a lot, and then
Yeah.
so the Lord saved you.
Yeah.
What did that look
At
like?
the age of 8, and I still remember it was a Sunday morning, and sitting there, and the people say, "Oh, you was young, and you don't know." I could feel it in my heart. You know, I could feel the Lord saying, "Knocking, it's your time. Come on up, come on up."
Yeah.
And I did, and then I was baptized.
Okay.
And you know, that was great. I will say that was great, and
Life was perfect from
life
there
was
on out.
great. I wish that, yeah.
You became Christian, and life was
And
just,
you know, everything just
amazing.
came beautiful. Well,
So where did that all lead at that point?
so I went through school, and I played sports, worked at a little restaurant right down the road, could ride my bike as a dishwasher, and went to school, worked, played sports. Was the good kid, you know. Grew up, and people always, you know, I was voted like to be the most productive in my class, you know, type person, and you know, good things was happening. And after graduating from school, I got a job for a supplier of the big 3. It was a laser welding facility. I was a high-low driver.
Okay.
And we had it was a pallet of steel that came in. It was banded incorrectly, and I was working afternoons, 20 years old, and was in a hurry to get out of there, and was about 30 minutes over my shift. So I was Friday evening. I'm, you know, just not paying attention, and cut the band and went to pull the band, and where it was banded incorrectly, when I pulled the band underneath the pallet, that the band was crimped, the pallet came down, pinched my finger, cut part of my finger off.
Yeah. Man.
And
That had to hurt.
yeah, and so of course, you know, they had to do, I had 3 surgeries on my hand, and of course, coming with that, you know, it comes narcotics and pain medication.
So you're 20 years old at this
20
point.
years old, yeah. And even before this, I wasn't a Tylenol person. I didn't want cough medicine, because I seen what happened with my biological parents.
Right.
I didn't want nothing to do with any of that. Was prescribed it, and I was off and running.
Wow. How old are you now?
I'll be 45 in August.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, this is 25 years ago. This is back in like 2000.
2000.
So you're 20. You
Yeah.
have this. You weren't drinking before that, smoking
No.
weed, nothing, right? So you're kind of like,
Yeah.
you're voted most productive.
Yeah.
Did you work out then?
Yeah. I was working out then. I mean, I had a condo, a brand new truck, had a good job. I mean,
At 20.
yeah,
That's
you
good.
know, and people think, oh, you got it all together.
Yeah.
And your life's great.
So
And
now you get prescribed these narcotics,
yeah,
right?
yep,
Painkillers and
yep,
whatnot. And then so how did that begin to
yeah.
unfold?
So, like I said, I had 3 surgeries on my hand. However, 2 of those were probably only ones that were needed. The third one, I manipulated the
Okay.
doctor into putting me under,
Yeah.
doing more surgery just to get more pain medication.
Wow. And what amount of time was that?
That was roughly about a year and a half time frame. So I was in between 21, 22 that all
Okay.
this was going on.
And
Yeah.
you were just taking prescribed pills and stuff
Prescription,
like
yeah, from the doctor. And
that. But within that 2 years, now you're like, hey, I need more of these. Did he ever try to cut you off? You're like, hey, you don't need any more.
no. Back then it was good. I had a good doctor. He was very responsible with it, and was like, no. And they even winged me back properly off the medication. But the hiccup that I had then was I went to school with a kid that worked for a little mom and pop pharmacy
Okay.
down there in Temperance, Michigan.
Okay.
And he ordered all their prescriptions for them, their medications he ordered. And so I started buying jugs of 500,
Jeez.
you know, Vicodin, Lorcet, Percocet, all the, you know, just buying them. And done that for about a year. And I remember to this day, one day I'm just like, after doing this for about a year, I'm like, I'm just going to quit. I'm done with this. I'll be fine. I'll walk away. And that was when I first experienced withdrawal.
Okay.
And I'm like, what's this?
Yeah, what's happening?
And back on the phone with him. And then I went to...
So this whole time, though, you're working and stuff.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
still
working.
being productive. You
still
got a
being
good,
productive.
You're just buying. You
Yep.
got this
Still have my new
connection, buying
truck.
jugs.
Yep. I had moved back home.
Okay.
So I was a little more comfortable with money spending because I didn't have to pay for certain things because I still lived at home. So a lot of that money that should have been used for good things was being spent irresponsibly.
So now you actually do try to quit, but you realize that I don't want that. You're gonna be sick. Withdrawing, right? So you call him back up. So then where does that all go?
Yes. So ultimately, the parents that adopted me, you know, they had no addiction history of anything. You know, this is all foreign to them, so they're learning too.
Yeah, they're starting to see it in you now. By that time.
Yep. And so they got me into Henry Ford Maple Grove.
Okay.
At around the age of 22.
Okay.
And I go there, and I go in and was there for my addiction, and there was a doctor there that were finishing up his clinicals, a psychiatrist, and I maneuvered it to get him to put me on Adderall.
While you were in there?
While I was in there,
Okay.
for prescription abuse.
Because you were taking that too. You weren't just taking. You had been taking a lot more than.
Well, up to that point, it was just the opiates.
Okay.
Yeah, but when I felt that, I'm like, oh, this is new.
Yeah.
And now
why did you try to get him to give you Adderall? Just because?
I think. Well, the thing was I was so my brain was so off balance with the abusive stuff that I was telling them stuff, and they thought, oh, this is what you need. This is your ADD. This is what you need.
Yeah, okay.
And then once I felt it kick in, I am ADD. You're right. I need that. I need more of that. Yeah. And so he started prescribing that to me, and he was about done when I was about to leave there, and he was opening up his own private practice.
Okay.
In Bloomfield Hills. Okay. And I was like, when I get out here, you take my insurance, can I come see you and you be my doctor? He said, yeah. I said, okay, great. Got out, went to seeing him, and within 3 months, I had him prescribe me opiates.
Okay.
The same doctor that was the psychiatrist at the rehab that I was at for opiate abuse is giving them to me.
Yeah, this is back like what, 02?
02, 03. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had him he got raided by the DA in 2015, December 2015.
So that whole time?
Whole time I had this doctor that started out insurance. Eventually he moved to cash.
Yeah.
But I had been able to have this long dialogue relationship with this doctor, and he ended up prescribing me large amounts of stuff. I mean, I was methadone, Xanax, Adderall, oxycodone, Zomas. He was giving me anything I wanted, basically.
Yeah. And you did that then for the next 12 years.
Yeah, next 12 years. Yeah.
And that was your main thing. You were selling them probably. That kind of stuff
absolutely.
You're taking them, selling
yeah,
them.
absolutely. All
just
that.
giving you way more than you could possibly even take, even when you're strung out. Mm-hmm. So then you're selling them. And so the whole time then too, you're working and stuff? And
no, I didn't have to work because just the one prescription that I would get, that I would sell alone, I was making $7,500 a month.
Wow.
Off selling. I didn't have to work.
Wow. So yeah, you were selling drugs and had this great hookup.
Yeah.
And so what did it look like for 12 years? I mean, did you just go?
I had a condo, I had an apartment, and my family would always put stuff in. I don't think this is good. I think, there's something wrong.
Did they know what you're doing? They knew you weren't working.
Yeah, they knew. But also during those 12 years, two things. First thing is I justified it because I was getting it from a doctor. Mom, you don't know what you're talking about. Doctors give me, I need it.
Yeah.
But then also what had happened in those 12 years.
But they weren't. You don't need it to sell it.
No. Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But also in those 12 years, from taking so much of the medication, I started having these symptoms where I'd walk and my muscles would lock up.
Really?
Or they'd totally give out. So I ended up going to a neurologist at Henry Ford that actually diagnosed me with Lou Gehrig's disease.
Really?
Yeah. Gave me a diagnosis. I was getting SSI there at the end.
Really?
For Lou Gehrig's disease.
Okay. So then this becomes part of how you're justifying why I don't work and all that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And even getting some SSI in it. How long did that go on? Were you on SSI and all that?
That was 5-6 years.
Really? That long?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And were they prescribing you anything for that?
Well, they would give me stuff, and I still remember to this day the doctor saying, he'd give me the prescription, but I only got the good ones filled. And and he knew though, he knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
He's like, to cover up, you gotta get all these filled, Brent. You just can't be getting the controlled substances filled. You got this other stuff,
So where's the Lord at in all this?
Yes.
Like this whole time, right? You were raised with this foundation. The Lord saved you.
Yeah.
And then you have this accident. It's not like you were looking for it necessarily or on any wrong path, even given the way you were raised. So, yeah, I mean, did you have any sense of all that?
So there was times where, I always questioned, kind of mad, why me? I have a biological sister, struggles with no addiction history. I have all these other family around me, no problems. Why me, God? So I was kind of didn't understand, but mad. Upset, absolutely, and didn't understand it. And but
I mean, did you have any relationship with the Lord? I mean, did you?
It on my basis,
Did you go to church and all that?
Well, yeah, always. Well, yeah, because that was
because you were still living
at home. That was a requirement.
Yeah.
Therefore, but when I got my own place, it of course it fell back into me not going and doing what I should be doing.
Some guilt about what you were doing?
Not really. No, because I was so numb.
Yeah.
I was just so numb to everything all day, every day.
Did you ever try quitting in that 12 years?
Nope.
No. Steady hookup.
Yeah, from the doctor. Every month it was just, clockwork.
It's just your routine.
Yeah.
So what happened, what kind of brings that to a halt when he gets raided?
He gets raided.
Okay.
And, December, so I went roughly 17, 18 days trying to kick all this medicine. And stayed in the basement of my mom's house.
Wow.
And just thought, I'm gonna kick it. I'm gonna get off this methadone, this Xanax, all these medicines, and it just wasn't going away. And I found
So you had to come clean with them. Well, they knew you.
They knew. Yeah, my mom knew at that time.
Yeah.
You know, I told her, you know, I need to stay down here.
It just wasn't illegal.
Right.
Just the selling part.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did something I always, you know, because I thought I was better than the other drug addicts.
Yeah.
I'm not going to shoot no heroin.
Yeah.
And you know that the only thing that would take care of that withdrawal was heroin.
Mm-hmm.
And in that circle of selling pills, I knew
Sure.
people, and so I went to the next level.
Yeah.
You know?
Then you start shooting dope.
Shooting dope.
Okay.
Yep. And overdosed a couple times. You know, during those years, ended up going to treatment for about a year, and while I was there, really, I didn't really work on myself. Didn't really, you know, focus on what was causing some of the stuff, and some of the stuff was from my childhood. You know, things that happened, from molestation and abuse from the parents and stuff that I just never addressed and ran from.
Where were you at treatment? Like a long term or short term?
Long term for about a year, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And that was Life Challenge.
Okay.
And I done really well there. And went there, got out.
But you weren't really dealing with what was really going on with you, is what you're saying?
Right.
For that year?
I wasn't. I was just going through the routine. You know, it wasn't really.
Kind of develop some structure.
Yeah.
Away from the drugs. Yeah.
Yeah. And
did you know what you want? Did you have any? I mean, were you depressed or no purpose, or like what were you thinking? You know, I mean, during those times, you had to be. How old were you at that point?
That was in 2017, 2018. I went there.
Yeah. So.
And
late 30s.
38.
Okay.
Yep. Was when I got out.
And you haven't worked in years.
Hadn't worked in years, right?
Most productive. The one voted most productive.
Yeah. Yep.
Drugs have a way of
drugs
taking all that away. Yeah.
But what really happened at Life Challenge too, Darin, was I got into an inappropriate relationship.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on making me better, I was distracted with an inappropriate relationship.
Yeah.
And
she'll fix it.
Yeah. Well,
you weren't thinking that probably, but probably felt good.
It felt, I mean, all that, like,
been numb for 12 years.
12 years, you know. So that happened, and her and I had came up with the idea that once I got a good enough job in my own place, she was going to leave her husband and take her kids, and she was going to get a divorce, and we was going to do our thing. And sure enough, I did that. I worked. But all this that I'm doing isn't for me. It's for someone else. You know, none of this, I'm not serving the Lord like I should be. I'm not working on myself. This is all for someone else.
Yeah, you're just going, I mean, because on top of that, so you're in this Christian program. But yet you're not only in an inappropriate relationship, but she's married.
Yeah.
Which you probably obviously knew. That this whole thing's a mess.
Yeah, I was raised like, I know the Lord's not going to bless that.
Yeah.
You know, like, I know.
We justify it. We have the uncanny ability to just justify everything. So you start working, and then what happens?
I worked for UPS, driver.
So you got out, you're clean.
Doing a great job, got my own place, proposed, hey, let's do what we planned on doing. She said, nope, I'm not leaving my husband. So this whole time, though, I was away from my family from downriver. I was in Flint living.
Okay.
And so this happened, and
It's probably good she didn't move in
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah. It was, the
She
Lord's
stayed
not
with her
going to
husband.
bless the situation at all.
Yeah.
And that's all stupidity on my
Yeah.
part. And so, but she said that, she goes, I want us to still do what we're doing, but you can't have a girlfriend. And I was like, well, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it broke my heart.
Yeah,
And,
sure.
and so her and I had really became close, like good friends, and with the kids too.
With
and
her kids?
Yeah, with her kids. Yeah. And so I, like you said, we justify things. I, in my head, said, you're an opiate abuser, Brent. Methamphetamine ain't gonna hurt you.
Yeah, there you go.
We justify it. Ain't that,
Yeah.
you're just gonna do it for this weekend, right?
Yeah.
And I went down that road.
So, and this is after you left her.
Yep.
So now you're late 30s. Boom.
Yeah, this is
Things are good. I mean, like in terms of
well, still working
you got
for
to
UPS.
work, you got a place,
Still have a car,
yeah,
place,
but no purpose.
no purpose. Yeah, just
love.
going through motions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
No. Yeah, definitely no purpose. Yeah. And of course that takes over. Overdose a couple more times.
And meth?
No, well, because the meth
led
when
you
you're
back.
up so long, you were like, oh, I need to go to sleep. So you shoot fentanyl with it.
Yeah.
To put you to sleep. Well, yeah, it put me to sleep. And overdose total of 8 times. And the Lord is still have me here.
How, man, 8 times. I mean, how did you just woke up every time, or you an ambulance? Somebody'd have to call, or
Ambulance. Most of the time, there was only one time that I was found unresponsive, but most of the time it was with people that hit me with Narcan, called the ambulance, things like that.
Wow.
But yeah,
like even when the people you're hanging out with think that you've got a problem when they're used to.
Yeah.
Like you're a problem for us.
Yeah. They don't want you're bringing cops around what we're trying to do, Brent. We can't hang out with you no more. Yeah. You're bringing too much smoke to this fire. Like.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, the Lord's probably this whole time just being like, man, you're not gonna. I've got a plan for you.
Yes.
And how did that all come to an end?
And that's how I grace Centers of Hope.
Yeah.
And something I just want to put in there real quick again is, all this time I'm mad at God because all this stuff is happening. A lot of it I caused myself, but I'm questioning why me? Why did you bring me out of the darkness that I had with my biological parents into the light, and now I'm back into this? Why? And
you're probably looking back and going, as I imagine a lot of people are in this type of situation. It's not like, especially for you, it's not like you were on a bad path or making poor decisions in the sense of like prior to your use. You kind of had it in your mind, I'm not going to do those things.
Yeah.
And then got into an accident and kind of, kind of more innocently.
Yeah.
Got into it, and then it just spirals out of control. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. I think a lot more people realize today. There's been a lot more advocacy and awareness about pain pills and stuff like that, and what they really are.
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing. And of course, to some degree, the DEA is cracked down on doctors and
Tightened
stuff.
up.
So it's, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there that's getting jars still. But yeah, so you're angry at God. You're probably wondering, how in the world did I get here?
Yeah.
You probably have this sense of, whether you realized it at the time, but really just wanting that love, and connection that, your biological parents never gave you.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So when I ended up actually losing everything, my job at UPS, my car, my place, my biological sister, which her and I are real close, her and her husband came and got me. And Ben is his name, and Ben and I were in the same grade, went to school together, and we had a friend. He was closer to this friend than I was. That was at Grace Centers of Hope for
Okay.
about 4 or 5 years and done really well here.
Okay.
And they was like, Brent, you need to come try this program out.
Yeah.
And you know, I had nowhere else to go. I had nothing. You know, I had
Just
nothing.
lost it all. You stopped
Lost-
showing up to work. Yeah, I mean, you're a meth
Fire,
habit.
yeah, meth,
ODing.
lost everything. Had nothing. And
Did you ever get locked up during this time? Ever get arrested?
oh yeah, I've been arrested several times. And so back in the beginning of my addiction, yeah, a couple felonies for breaking and entering, fleeing and looting.
Yeah. But when it all came to an end, yeah, you didn't catch any cases then.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they recommend this program. You're at the bottom of the barrel, and what you just decided? All right, I'm going. Or-
Yeah. I'll give it a try. And I remember when I came in here, May 11th, 2021, I asked the Lord if He would restore my joy, my happiness, my peace, that I would sit down and just trust Him. Because through the other times that I tried, I wanted control of everything.
Sure.
And about 2 months in, I noticed the smile coming back, the happiness coming back, you know, just the free spirit, you know, loving on people, being kind, all the stuff started coming back.
Yeah.
And that felt good. And so I completed the program, and at one part of the program, I thought, I knew what I kind of wanted to do or what I'd like to do, but I was doing good in another department, and I just thought that's where I was going to be, and that's what I was going to do. And
Which was what?
working in the stores.
Yeah.
I was working in the stores, and they told me they needed an RA. And
Which is a resident assistant.
assistant. Yep. And so again, okay. I was happy. I had joy, peace. You know, I was back to my younger me again. So okay, God, I'll go in. Although I think this is something else I want to do, I'm just going to go in and do it. And I was a resident assistant for a few months. And then I got put back into the stores, the other department, and doing dispatch.
Okay.
And I had some familiar, some background with that because I worked for UPS, scheduling pickups and all, you know, organizing things. So I had some logistics knowledge, and I'd done really well at that for a year.
Okay.
And then
For those people that don't know, at Grace Centers of Hope, because you did the year life skills program.
correct, yes.
Which everybody in the life skills program is helping out in the ministry somewhere. So they might be working at the stores, working in maintenance, working in the kitchen, even as an RA, things like that. So you were at the stores the whole time.
Yes.
Figured, and then of course a lot of people who graduate our programs, they're hired here within our ministry, and so yeah, you thought you'd get hired at the store, and started working as an RA and stuff.
Yep.
But then eventually started working in dispatch. So at this point, you're like done with the program. You're in aftercare, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Grace Centers of Hope has basically what we call Little Grace Village. We've renovated 60 homes behind our women's center that kind of serves as our aftercare program. So once a person completes the year-long program in the men's center or the women's center, they can move into these homes. And so anyway, that kind of gives, so yeah, at that point, right, what was it that was working for you at that point? I mean,
what was working for me is at this time, I got out of my own way, and I was letting God.
How'd you do that?
It has to be Him. It has to be Him that's done all that. It's nothing I've done.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing I've done.
You just surrendered.
I've just surrendered and realized that over the 20 plus years of addiction and me trying to do it, it never worked out. So whatever was happening, I was just going to let it happen. I wasn't going to change it or manipulate it or force anything, and just go with it.
And then just that consistency over time of being around other guys probably in that program.
Yes.
And a case manager.
Yep. Became a case manager. And I don't think you even know this.
Uh-oh.
But this is 4 years to the date that I came to Grace Centers of Hope. You came to my office and asked me to do the director's job that same day.
Really?
May 11th of last year, you came in my office.
Really? Wow. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
That was kind of a God nod to you, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just like, wow. So that happened. And then also something I've realized, he restored my joy, peace, happiness, and I've told him I would just let him do his thing. But the other thing I was mad about God and didn't understand why he, for all those years, allowed me to struggle. And his personality is kind of funny because now what I do, he's like, son, look it. This is why. Just because now I help these men that went through things that I went through my whole life. And I can give back into them.
He's like, when he tells Hosea, God tells Hosea to go marry an unfaithful wife, you know, he's preparing him for how, or really giving him a picture of how he helps us, you know. And so now today, right, you pour into these guys. So Brent, like I said, he directs our men's aftercare ministry. So there's probably 50.
So we have
70.
We have 50,
guys.
57 in aftercare and 46 in independent living.
So a lot. And so how do you? I mean, gosh, there's just so much I could ask you. So, I mean, I guess the first thing I'd say is, the biggest thing, what you're saying, when you came here, different from previously, is you were just saying, you were at the end of the rope and you surrendered at that point and got yourself out of the way. How do you do that now? You know, like how do you do that? Like if for somebody who's out there who's listening, you know, who is sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you know, what is there something that you have, you know, learned, or I mean, you grew up in a Christian home, so you knew probably quite a bit of scripture and stuff like that. Were there any, like, you know, I don't know, revelations or insight that you were able to gain about the gospel or just the grace of God that really maybe began to heal you in some ways that previously you hadn't, you know? Or how did your relationship with God begin to change, I guess?
Well, first, you know, it was me surrendering and realizing I'm not who I think I am, and that, you know, my best decisions got me to losing everything. You know, and part of also coming here, what's helped me is, you know, as a man, you want to be like, I know the answer. I'm not going to ask nobody else for an answer. I got this. And a lot of my coworkers and I are real close. And being able to open up and you know, talk about things, especially like we're doing regeneration now. And bouncing things off and sharing things and realizing that you're not the only person. You know, you look at someone that might have this job up here, but they struggle just like you do. And being able to share that in community is helped out a lot. And knowing that there's people that genuinely do care and love you, that are love that love the Lord.
What would you say are, yeah, so the community aspect. I mean, is there anything about particularly like your experience at Grace Centers of Hope that you would say are elements of it that are maybe unique and what really helped you? Or
So absolutely, a lot of a lot of people struggle with addiction for a long time. Mine was 20 plus years. What happened in 20 plus years is not going to get rewound in 1 month.
right.
It's not, but as an addict, you want instant gratification. You want it resolved yesterday.
Yeah.
And we have to slow down. That was another thing that I had to get myself out of the way. Slow down. And so you come in here, you do the program, you do the classes, and then
It's long term,
residential,
yep.
residential, and then you also get 2 years of aftercare
Yeah.
where you're still held accountable and kind of shepherd. And it's, to me, this whole program, as I tell people, it's kind of like you're starting over as a child. You're in the 1 year life skills program, you're going through K through 12.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And then once you get into aftercare, now it's kind of like your transition. You graduate from high school, you're going into your first place, where you got some roommates, you're on campus,
Yeah.
college, you might got a little better job, you're doing things, and that's kind of like aftercare. And then during aftercare, you want to progress and get a little better job, got some recovery under your belt, better, stronger relationship with God. And now you might be like, oh, I want to get a relationship with a companion, or I might now want to go get my own place. And that's kind of like you graduate from college. Now you're going to get buy your first house, you get a wife. That's what that's all it is to me. Like, and I try to explain that, and it's
a good way to break it down.
Yeah.
That transitional piece. I think at Grace Centers of Hope too, which is what are the things that you pointed to, and I think is unique and important, is the community aspect of what we do. You know, having basically like a campus type setting. And so all these guys kind of like literally in that campus, like you were saying, there's you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Yes.
I think people who, addiction is self-centered by nature. I'm not trying to insinuate that a person, like only self-centered people are addicted, but when you are addicted, all you are is thinking about yourself because you've got to get that next fixed, and and so self-centeredness is hell.
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis said that a choice for the devil is a choice for hell, which is a choice for the endless biography. Just that's what hell is. Just an endless biography, endless autobiography. It's all about you all the time. And that's ultimately hell. And I think to come out of that is you've got to look outside of yourself. It's not something like I think like you mentioned, it's surrender daily. Martin Luther said all of life is repentance, so it's constant turning away. It's not something we did when we were 8.
Right.
It's something we do daily.
Yeah.
I die daily, the Apostle Paul said. And being able to look out from yourself. I think we were created to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And so having our church community, and I mean, you start to live when you're part of something bigger than yourself, you have purpose.
Yes.
And I tell people a lot that where somebody doesn't have a purpose, which is what a lot of, you're right. I mean, people who come to Grace Centers of Hope that are homeless, or they're essentially homeless. They may not be on the street. A lot of people are on the street. And when you're addicted and home, like by that time you maybe had so when you go back to when you were 20, I'm sure you had dreams, hopes.
Oh yeah.
You were productive. God had given you these gifts. He'd given you a place to develop them. And then when you get strung out like that, it's like by the time you've been in that for 15 years, I mean, I'm sure you were just like, at that point, you're depressed. I mean, trying to get clean is like, what happens when I get clean? I got to
Yeah.
face the music, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And I did. I had, before my addiction started, a great relationship. Like I said, my own place, my own car. I had dreams and goals of having kids, family, all that stuff. Absolutely. And then the addiction, you do what you said. You isolate. You go do your own thing. You take, that it takes you away from everything, and that's what not God. God didn't make us to be that way. He made us to be in community
Right.
and love other people.
Yeah.
And addiction does totally opposite of that.
Yeah, it isolates.
Yes.
Yeah, so community is one of the answers. So like in the aftercare community that you lead, you're doing all kinds. I mean, it's really community for people are helping one another out. They know one another.
Yes. Yeah.
There's accountability,
There's
responsibility.
accountability. You're still coming to church. We have events that you go to. We have co-ed events with the women's aftercare. You give back. We got Hope in Action coming up, where people in aftercare, you give back and you go and clean the neighbor's house, help them clean things. That's all in community. That's all growing in life, doing productive things, and that's the opposite of what addiction is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you're helping other people.
Yes.
So this whole experience that you've gone through, and have pulled, the Lord's pulled you out of,
Absolutely.
and set you on a solid foundation, has given you purpose.
Yeah.
Which somebody that is what I was going to say when somebody doesn't have any purpose, they, if something I like to say if there's something in my house that has, or any of our houses that has no purpose, I mean, then it's useless. So it's useless to me, and it's trash. You throw it out, right? Unless you're like me and you just pile up a bunch of stuff in your house until my wife throws it out. But somebody who has no purpose, then ultimately underneath all that, what a lot of people don't realize is that their depression is coming from this lack of purpose, because they feel useless. They're insignificant. They're worth nothing. If something's trash, they're worth nothing. And so coming out of that is realizing that, maybe all this that you've been through was actually God has been allowed you to go through a lot of that to bring you to this place of, it's like Moses. Moses had been set up by God. It's clearly a setup. His mom puts him in the river when Pharaoh's killing all the firstborns, puts him in a river in that basket, and then the Pharaoh's daughter is the one who pulls him out of it, and then hires his own mom to be the one that raises him in his house.
Yeah.
But he's this Jewish boy who's raised in like the best possible education he possibly could get, clearly giving him the skills and leadership abilities to be able to be the person to save his people. And he can identify with the Jews. He knows how to live as an Egyptian. But then he fails, man. He kills this guy.
Yeah.
And, I would often think, man, for Moses, just how much, he's on the run. He takes off and he's out in the wilderness for 40 years out there, probably on the run, living as a shepherd for Jethro. He meets somebody, but that 40 years in the desert was all a plan for God to prepare him to go in there and save his people out of Egypt, to go into the wilderness.
Yeah.
So it's like that his wilderness experience originally was preparing him. So
Yeah.
do you feel like that today? That is that how have you been able to make sense of your your anger with God and stuff, in the pain that you've been through?
Yeah. And so I've all that, like I said, I feel like when I got to the point where I just said, I had nowhere else to look but up. And I growing through life, and like I said, my upbringing, I knew the answer. And I've been saved, and I had great relationship with the Lord. But the addiction, I think, put a hole in me that I was trying to get filled
Yeah.
with all these other substances in the world, women, drugs,
Yeah.
and it's only temporary. And he had to take all that away from me,
Yeah.
break me all the way down to realize that he was the one that's going to fill that hole for me.
Only one that could.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The only time you know that God is all you need is when God is all you have.
All you have.
Yeah. And so, yeah, maybe a lot of that, you think that part of that hole was the whole thing with your biological parents and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. The part of it too, was I had always seeked validation from my biological mom,
Right.
and never got it. My mom that adopted me was something she pointed out, how I always tried to make her happy, but it never was acknowledged or was good enough. And part of growing through life was seeking that validation and that fulfillment from other people. And they're human, they're going to let you down.
Right.
It's just what it is.
So when you learn, that the only validation that's what the gospel does, man. Learning that that you matter to the only one who really actually matters.
The king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you learn that, man, it's life-changing.
Yeah.
And but until you come to that place of surrender and realize, man, nothing in this world is going to fill it. If there's not a God. I remember a guy telling me, I said, man, I don't know about this whole like trusting in something that I can't see. Like that, it just seems weird. How do I even do that? Like, where's that all going to lead? Like, I don't know if there's a God. I can't see him. And he just said point blank, he's like, man, you better hope there's a God. Because if there's not, then I don't know where else you got to go.
Yeah.
And that was the reality. It was like, yeah, he's right. Here I am trying to figure everything out. And there is nothing to figure out other than just trusting in something outside of myself, and other people, being willing to allow other people to speak into your life. And then, so what would you say to somebody? What do you say to like some of these guys or that you deal with you help, you serve every day, or to people who are out there right now listening that maybe they're stuck. Maybe they even have a whole wrong idea of what it means to be Christian. I think that that's one of the most powerful messages about your story, quite honestly, is that I think that there's just this tendency that people believe, like non-believers, the people who are not Christian, I think they think Christian people think they're better than everybody else because Christian people do good things, or people who do become believers are like, oh, okay, so this means that I do good now, and that only good people are in the church.
No,
but here you are, you don't have this. Some people have just God. I have this God moment. He reveals to me that he exists, that Jesus is real, and their life is transformed when they're saved. You knew all about God.
Yes.
And still, we're on the run.
Yeah.
And so a Christian has every ability to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, my upbringing, you're kind of reference to what I'm about to say is my upbringing was, I was taught that, you live this certain way and you fit into this box. I had to be a Christian.
Right.
And so that was part of, well, how's the Lord love me? How am I ever going to be good enough? Well, you're never going to be good enough, but the Lord definitely loves you. And as I've grown older and learned more, and especially these last few years, building that better relationship with God, is I'm never going to be good enough, or I'm always going to make mistakes. But if I was good enough, didn't make mistakes, then we wouldn't need the Lord.
Well, exactly.
But I definitely need the Lord, because when I put the ball in my court, we see what happens.
Yeah.
You know.
People, it's all grace.
Yes.
It's all grace. Your relationship is based on grace. And I think that Christians, there's too many people. I think that I don't want to point outside myself, because I do it all the time. I think our tendency is to always try to relate to God by earning His love.
Yeah.
And because that's how the world works. That's
Yeah.
how our hearts naturally work.
Yeah.
They want to, it's trying to measure up. It's trying to become, make something of myself. And this idea that God loves me on my worst day as much as, my best day.
Yes.
He's not looking for a trophy. I like to say, God isn't asking you to present Him a trophy. And like coming to that realization that, because then people say, well, what are you saying? It doesn't matter what I do? And basically saying, no, it doesn't. But if you want to have a more intimate relationship with God, any relationship that has any real intimacy is going to have certain boundaries to it. And so God gives us His law to say, like, hey, these are the things that actually are good for you. Mm-hmm. And they're good for us together. This is what brings me joy. Mm-hmm. But all of the motivation for that is His grace, know. And so even when we fail, it's right back to the cross, you know. So yeah, I like to say you're either at every given moment, you're relating to God in one of two ways. Either you're trying to earn His love, and that's drudgery, and that's religion. And it will ultimately lead you to a place of either thinking you're better than other people,
self-righteous.
Self-righteousness. And then when you do mess up, then you're going to hide, and but that's just drudgery. It's just it's just another form. It's just a religious way of doing the world's rat race. Or you're responding to God, and being motivated because of what He's already done.
Already done, yes.
And, that's what we try to base everything on here. I think that's where so if somebody like yourself who's, really at the end of the day, right, you're saying you're struggling with validation and everything, that's got to be life-changing to really find out that the hole you always needed filled was only going to be filled by God, that nothing in this world could fill it.
Yeah. And also something you had said earlier, I was just thinking is people when you come here, I come to Grace Centers of Hope and stuff, that we are here to love you and to accept you and be there for you. And hope that through that you see Jesus. You see, wow, this person used to be like this and they can be this way now. And it's because of the Lord. And we just want to try to be there, love on you, help you. And that's what the Lord has done for me. Been there for me, helped me, loved me.
It's got to be a daily thing.
A daily thing.
Can't be I don't like to say that, going, like, overcoming anything in our lives, whether it's addiction or, my inability to put down food most of the time. It's not like going through a car wash. Like, you don't go to treatment and like, oh, I got washed off, and then you go,
Right.
It's a way of life.
Yes.
And, really Christianity is just a way of life. It's not a set of rules or practices, first and foremost. It's about a person, and His name's Jesus.
Yes.
And it's having a relationship with Him and seeing how the gospel really always is speaking into what our hearts truly need, you know? So for somebody out there maybe who's stuck, you know, or maybe there are people out there that they know, family members or loved ones or friends or colleagues or whatever, what would you say to people who are out there hurting and struggling?
So, to first, don't give up on them. You know, if you know somebody and they've maybe been doing this for years, don't give up on them. And that's another thing is sometimes, you know, some of the guys that I work with, they will do the same thing over and over and over, and people are like, "Well, how do you do that?" It's easy. I've done the same thing, and the Lord never gave up on me.
Yeah.
You know, don't give up on
That doesn't
them.
mean enable them.
No, exactly. And,
not gonna let
and
you
he
kill
didn't
yourself.
enable me. He chastised me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But he was always there. He always gave me a way to get out of whatever I got into. You know, the Lord was always there for me and always stood right beside me, helped me. And so love on them. Try to encourage them to do good. And I think people, if they're stuck and you don't understand Christianity or Jesus or anything, just come in here and try to just be open-minded. Don't be narrow-minded. Just absorb and think, you know, my way wasn't working. Maybe there is something else to this. Maybe, just give it a shot. What you have to lose?
Exactly.
You have nothing to lose. You have forever. You have eternity to gain.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, just don't be narrow-minded and just give it a try. And we'll be here with you. We'll help you. Try with you.
And I think that, you know, clearly, you know, stories like yourselves and others that we've talked to here, so many people that, I mean, it's just reiterating over and over and over again that nobody is beyond redemption. There's nobody that's too far gone for the power of the gospel. So if you're out there and you're suffering, you're hurting, or and it may not be addiction, it could be, you know, there's people out there that are still working and productive and stuff, but they're, like I say, they're living for shiny things that rust.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's like searching, you know, the rat race of life without the Lord. I think it's just, when you're living for yourself, you're just living for the treasure, living for it, and then you finally get the treasure chest, you open it up, and there's a mirror. You know, that's all it's in there. It's all you got. The big treasure was yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the endless autobiography again. And so I know that there's people out there that you may have money, you may have, like I tell people, I probably say this too often, but that's why I love our church so much, because our church is just, you have people literally pulling up in their Mercedes, their Range Rovers, Cadillacs, and other people who are literally prostituting last week.
Yes.
Or strung out last week, or, you know, just were in some kind of horrible situation. We're just all at the foot of the cross. It's just level, you know, and so I know that there are other people out there who, it may not be addiction. It could be just a total lack of purpose.
Yeah.
I think there are studies that say some of the, like, suicidal rates are higher among people of, like, greater wealth, you know, depression, the amount of people who seek counseling and stuff, you know. So money is not the answer. And so, but there's a surrender to it that comes, like, coming to realize that there's hope for you. And your hopeless situation may be in your marriage. It may be with your, you know, trying to raise your kids. You live for your kids, so it's like they're your whole world. And I know this is really challenging for parents, but man, they can't hold the weight of your soul. You try to have your kids carry the weight of your significance and value in life. And then when they fail at something, your world tumbles, because you put so much pressure on them to be somebody, and to, you know, you got to take these honors classes, you got to take, you know, everything else. And it's like, so there's hope. there's hope, man, for people who are out there.
Yeah, yeah. And I also would like to throw this out there is, if you, like you say, you just don't have that purpose, but you don't struggle with no addiction or anything, come join us at church, Grace Gospel Fellowship. Fill out a Connect card.
Yeah.
And maybe you can get some purpose in serving on one of our serve teams. That'd be great. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, you ought to be in a church with a lot of joy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of joy in our church.
Yeah.
I've been, we had that fire suppressant line burst in
Yeah.
January. And so, as kind of leading here, I'm looking and going, all right, man, it's May and the floor in the lobby is still plywood, And then I have to check myself and just go, it just hasn't mattered though. It just doesn't matter. It just brings things back to foundational that, man, there's just so much joy in God moving in us and working in all kinds of different ways and different lives.
We had 57 baptized with the plywood hardwood floor.
Yeah, exactly.
The Lord's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
There wouldn't have been any less or more had we had pretty looking tile out there in the lobby. Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. A lot of great things. Well, Brent, thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll do it again.
All right.
And so if you're out there and you're listening, man, we'd love to meet you. I'm sure Brent would love to talk to you, maybe comment wherever this is posted, or give us look us up, gracegospelfellowship.org and gracecentersofhope.org, and we want to help however we possibly can. So thanks, Brent.
Thanks.
All right.